we don't like to think about like how we're triggered. We don't like to think about how we're not a perfect human. You know, we all want to be so perfect all the time. And so when you have to sit down and say, I'm not perfect, there are things that work in my brain that aren't giving me the right energy, and I need to fix that within myself. There have been projects that I haven't sold, that haven't made it off the ground. It can feel really detrimental. What are these things that we're trying to live up to? You know, who put those there?
Yes.
You know, do we need to
Doesn't matter.
So that failure of not getting the part turned into this, 5 years making 10 movies and then translating that into a career in Los Angeles.
Hi, I'm Yegi. I'm an entrepreneur and success coach who wants it all. Family, luxury, career, and the freedom to do whatever I want, whenever I want. And I'll do whatever it takes to get there. I created the Yegi Project to document my journey and inspire others to do the same. My mission is to change the world by influencing and leading others to do what they love and live fulfilled lives. Hello. Welcome back to the Yegi Project. Today we have Terissa Kelton as our honored guest.
Thank you.
And I'm so excited to get to know her. So very brief intro before we dive in. She is an executive producer, an actress, and I think she's also an expert in mindset in a way to be able to handle all that she does. So I'll kind of leave it to you to please tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and whatever you want to share as an intro.
Yes, perfect. So yes, I am a co-founder and executive vice president of a company called Rehab Entertainment. That's a really fancy title for I produce, develop TV and film projects. I've been doing that for about 10 years or so. And also performing in front of the camera is actually my first love. It's how I got involved in the entertainment industry. I have a slate of about 5 to 10 projects at any given time. They range from animated TV shows to live action, kids content, all the way through, all our age groups. So a little bit of everything.
So pretty diverse in the production area.
Yes, I like variety. I feel like I have like project ADD. I always like to be working on something different.
Yes.
So
how did you get into producing? Initially, you said you were acting.
Yeah. I initially went to college for acting and journalism, and then I just was having some trouble getting cast at my university for stage shows. And I was like, well, I'm not going to sit here and not do anything. So I went...
What else can I do?
Yeah, what else can I do? And so I jumped into the sort of Austin film scene. Austin, Texas is where I'm from. And got involved with a film company pretty early on and started working with them in front of the camera. And then I just fell in love with the process of filmmaking. And I would just keep showing up, and I think they were finally like, "This girl's never gonna leave." But
we better give her a job.
We better just like give her a more, specific job, because I would show up and I would be, a production assistant. I would help, set up the crafts table,
just to be present,
and to see how all of it was coming together.
I love that.
It was a perfect learning experience. So yes, eventually they asked me to come on board. They asked me to be part of more of the development of the scripts and films they were doing. I even got the opportunity to direct a couple of short films. I was a director of photography for a short film, and I found out very quickly that I did not like being a director of photography. I also don't love sound editing. So I got to figure out what I liked, what I didn't like.
Yeah, you dabbled a little bit.
I dabbled in everything, yeah. And then just kind of also fell in love not only with performing, but with producing, with watching a project come together from beginning, development concept to script, to pre-production, to post, to planning, film festival strategy and distribution strategy.
Wow. So is that your day-to-day still today?
Yes. So then I worked in Austin for about 5 years. I did about 10 independent films. And then I decided to make the move to Los Angeles in 2015. And I was lucky enough to link up with a fantastic producer named John Hyde. And we just got along really great. He wanted someone who could kind of step in and be his producing partner. And I was like, that's exactly why I came to LA.
Right.
So I'm here I am. And yeah, and it all worked out and stuck
together. And is that when you guys launched the Rehab Entertainment?
Yes, so we formally launched Rehab Entertainment at the top of 2020, which was an interesting time to suddenly own an entertainment company. We had worked together the whole 5 years before that, but we formally launched Rehab Entertainment in 2020 and started, just continuing our slate. 2020 was also the year that our first animated show, Greenlight,
congratulations on that. I did read about that. Share a little bit more for our listeners.
Yeah, so we have a show. I animated a series called Harriet the Spy, which is based on the book by Louise Fitzhugh. And it's the first time it's ever been animated. It stars Beanie, Feldstein, and Jane Lynch, and a ton of other amazing voice actors. And it was animated by Titmouse Animation, who are wonderful. They do Big Mouth and lots of other things in the industry. And it just turned out to be a really beautiful show. It was my first animated show. Mm-hmm. So, I had done a lot of live action independent film, and the first thing to get greenlit was an animated show, and I was like, okay, we're doing it. But I was in fantastic hands. We have an amazing animation producer named Sydney Clifton, who really helped lead the way. And John, of course, had overseen The Simpsons and King of the Hill for a long time, so he knew tons of stuff. He knew how to guide. Yeah, and so I learned a lot on that show.
That's amazing to be able to also kind of be thrown in it in a way, right?
Yes. A lot of meetings where I just sat and listened, and I was just like, I'm surrounded by brilliant people. I'm gonna let them teach me. But yeah, it came out. The first 5 episodes came out in the fall of 2021, and then the last 10 episodes just came out a couple weeks ago on Apple TV Plus.
Awesome!
And it's a great show. It's technically a kid's show, but I think that if you liked Nickelodeon in the 90s, if you're my R-rated, you'll dig it. Yeah.
Well, I honestly love animated movies. That's my favorite type. So.
They're the best. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's so exciting to really literally start in the acting and go full circle, learn, produce, now doing your own production. Yeah. How was the experience transitioning into from, taking on all these projects and then building your own company? Because, building, like you said, in 2020 was not easy times, and it was uncertain times. Yeah. How did you guys decide, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna make this jump?
Yeah. I mean, again, I was in great hands because my producing partner has, owned companies all of his life. And we had been working together so closely for those 5 years and already had projects in the works. So when we formalized our partnership by creating the company Rehab Entertainment, it was really like an extension of the work we were already doing. But, during that time, I mean, there was a lot of uncertainty and suddenly feeling, very responsible for the future of a company. There was a lot of discussions just about how you're going to pivot, how you're going to change the strategy that you've been working towards this whole time. Suddenly we couldn't do a lot of live action anymore, so we pivoted towards more animated projects because we learned with Harriet the Spy. We were greenlit in February of 2020. So when March of 2020 hit, we were all very nervous, and literally the animators and everything, they just moved to their homes. And we were never off schedule. We were never off budget. Wow. So we were like,
and that's huge, right? Because a lot of times everything's off schedule and everything's off budget.
Right. And especially during COVID when, people were just trying to figure out how to keep things going. Mm-hmm. And so we were able to transition and do more animated, pitch more animated projects and just figure out different ways of still being really active in a time when everything felt really, really stagnated. And I think that's just overall really important. Anytime, your industry or the world around you feels stagnated is just finding that energy.
It's hard because it's discouraging. You see things not working out the way they should. It is very discouraging. You do have to find something to kind of hold on to give you that motivation. Yeah. So what was that something for you? You want to get into that a little bit?
I mean, a lot of it, during 2020, I had obviously with COVID, there was so much going on for everyone, but I had the experience of a family member who lost her ability to walk suddenly. And I took that really heavy, sort of family trauma, and I just was like, I've got to push forward, for my family.
You never know what's going to happen.
And I for me, like, thankfully the production of Harriet was going on at that time, and that it was so inspiring, to be able to be part of a project that was moving forward while also dealing with something that was, really so tragic in so many ways. But it gave me a lot of hope, and it inspired me, and it was kind of a feedback loop, because as I was going through this situation with my family, I was like,
just kind of balanced it out, the negative with the positive.
Exactly. And it made me want to move forward and want to do more, to not just provide for my family, but also just to be able to, have some positive news in a world that was really super negative at the time.
Yes, and uncertain.
It was the one thing that was moving forward in a really positive way.
So let's talk a little bit about habits and mindset, because you had to really kind of get those things down in order for you first to manage 10 projects at a time, and be able to, balance your personal life, do all this. So what advice would you give to our listeners as far as building healthy habits and having the mindset to keep going? Yeah,
I think one of the things that has been really helpful for me, is establishing a routine that is also very flexible. Okay. So working in everything that I want to do. So, right now I'm taking acting classes, I'm taking singing classes, I'm doing my job, do
you still want to go in front of the camera and act? Is that still your love?
I love it. It's something that I really love to do.
It's not like you graduate acting, then you go to producing. You can do both.
You still love it, and it feeds, there's a creative energy that the acting part, I feel like, feeds me and makes me really, it gives me energy to jump into my other projects too, where I'm doing more of the producing stuff. So I love all that stuff. And so I want to do, those things. And so I'm working out and like staying healthy and all of those things. And so, I have a routine every week that I'm following, but as we know, sometimes we get bored in that routine, right? And so it's like, what I like to do is just have the ability to change that routine up. So I might be doing, my workout might be three nights a week. And then after a while, I'm like, okay, let's change it up to like the mornings, or let's change it up just so that I don't get feel like I'm stagnated and bored in one way.
Or like nobody's making you do it at that time. You still have the control to change it. As that the
There's
thought
a little
process?
bit of that too. I mean, I think it's just, you feel sometimes like you don't want to feel stuck in you're just doing the same thing every day.
I can see that.
But for me, it's like I do love, I love building on these skill sets. So I want to do them. When I start feeling bored, to me, it's like, I just need to change it up. I need to just change it up a little bit. So that's one thing that, that I highly recommend keeping in mind. The other thing is sort of adopting like stoicism, which is a fancy word for like being really unemotional about all of the things going on in your life. Trying to stay focused on what you want to do, not getting distracted by, the news and everything that's bombarding us to take our energy.
Yeah, even social media, even friends and family. Yeah. You walking on the street, somebody's negative face.
Right, yeah, exactly. And you're like, oh my God, you get upset. You start like having these conversations in your head. And I think like...
It's so easy to get distracted these days.
And then you take that into your other parts of your life where you should be spending time. It's like sitting in bad traffic for an hour, and then you get home and you're in a bad mood. And you're missing out on spending really positive, great time with your family because you're still like tense and upset about that guy who cut you off on the 101,
totally.
And so it's just like learning to like, don't sweat the small stuff. That has been very helpful because it's amazing.
So what are some tools or techniques you've used, or how did you get to a place where you can, I guess, kind of like block out all of that unnecessary things that could affect your good energy for you to be productive, for you to work on the stuff you're enjoying?
I think a lot of it was learning to be more aware, just figuring out, sometimes you're walking around with tension and bad energy and you don't even realize it. Meditating helps a lot. I don't do it as much as I should, but just taking like a couple minutes out of the day to just like take some like really deep breaths and figure out where you're at, like suddenly you're like taking deep breaths and you're like, why are my shoulders up here? It's like, oh, okay. I think, the awareness of where you're at in your mind and in your body is really, really key. And finding out how to check in on yourself is really key.
To see what's actually affecting you.
Why do I feel like this? Sometimes I'm at home and I'm in a bad mood and I'm like, why am I in a bad mood? Like, I have a wonderful significant other. I have a cute dog and I have a great job. And like, what is making me upset? And it might be something really small that I just need to think on. Journaling is also another wonderful tool, I feel like,
that's something I use all the time. When I can't scream at somebody else, I just have to write it and get it out.
Any sort of like creative outlet, not a mood board, but the boards where you're kind of looking at your goals and
a vision board.
Vision board, yes, thank you. Vision boards are great too, to kind of help you, if you're feeling
like refocus, maybe.
Sometimes
refocus.
It's a focus. It is a focus thing, especially when you're juggling a lot. Some people, they want to be a great mom, they want to be great at their job, they want to be a great significant other, a great partner, a great this, a great that, and it can get overwhelming and you get worn thin. And so being able to like put your vision board up or write in your journal like what you're overwhelmed about, and then being able to look at it, it's like talking to yourself,
or like you said, or like being still to really figure out what's going on with yourself. I think all those tools you mentioned really kind of grounds us in a way to be able to figure out like, okay, why am I upset?
Right.
What should I be focused on instead?
Right. And it's
so easy to get distracted or to get upset and not even know why. And one thing I've noticed too, we all have triggers from childhood trauma, adult trauma, any type of anything that's been negative in our life. I realize we all have triggers, and I've recently paid attention to mine, so now I'm aware. So I really try hard to avoid those. I don't know, maybe I should try to heal those in a better way, but at least I think if people pay attention to like their triggers, they'll avoid like feeling like those crappy emotions. And like know why, or at least know why they're feeling those crappy emotions if they can't avoid those triggers.
And sometimes that's the hardest part, is identifying those, because we don't like to think about like how we're triggered. We don't like to think about how we're not a perfect human. We all want to be so perfect all the time, and so when you have to sit down and say I'm not perfect, there are things that work in my brain that aren't giving me the right energy, and I need to fix that within myself. I think that's the biggest hurdle. And then once you figured it out, like you said, like once you know your triggers, once you know how to do it, you at least can give yourself the tools and figure out how to get past it.
Yeah, I think at least even knowing, you're like, okay, fine. It's almost like, okay, I have the reason or I have the excuse to be upset, but now I can let it go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you give yourself permission.
Yes. Well, let's talk a little bit about being a public figure, being in front of the camera, off the camera. That's a lot of pressure, right? How does that make you feel overall in your personal life versus your professional life? Because even for me, even just having a social media account, sometimes you feel like, okay, I have to put this image of myself or have this brand of myself. So how do you do to kind of be true to yourself, but also maintain, I guess, your image? Because we all somewhat still need to maintain our image, right? Even though everybody says, oh, be you, like be fully open, but partially you still, I think every single person, no matter how open and honest we could be, we still kind of want to be polished, right? In our best version in the online world or in the public eye. So what are your thoughts or I guess advice on that for our listeners?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I try to do is I just try to be honest about, where I have insecurities and, openly talk about it while still, like when when I go do photo shoots or when I'm in front of the camera and like, you know, I post about it and I'm, you know, I love all of the positive remarks that you get, you know, all the likes that you get from those things. But I'm also like, hey, here's what I look like without makeup too. Here's what I look like on a regular day. You know, here's me going hiking with my dog. This is the other part of that. I don't always like look perfect or, you know, or sometimes, you know, when I'm right now, you know, I'm promoting Harriet the Spy because it just came out. But I like to talk about, you know, like sometimes there have been projects that I haven't sold, that haven't made it off the ground, that have been, you know, it's been really, you know, can feel really detrimental. I'm just really honest about those experiences. But I'm still like, but I made a great, I did make this
like
great show,
but
you
it
know?
didn't make it.
So I think it is like you know, there's moments where I'm I like to be that polished, you know, that self. And then there's those moments where I want to show the honesty and authenticness of what life really is.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important to be honest about, we're different. We're kind of all different people within one person.
And I think it lets, I'm just going to say the average person also say, okay, if I'm looking up to this person, then it's okay for me to have all these issues too. We all have all these issues. It's just some people don't talk about it. And that's what I kind of love, the change in social media nowadays, or in like public images. People are more open to showing their human side. But even with that, it could be difficult. I feel like for me personally too, not until this past couple years, I felt kind of confident enough to like show my face without makeup, right? Especially I'm in the beauty industry. People expect me to be like even my hair, but I decided, you know what? I don't want those things to hold me back. Let's say I want to record something. I don't want the way I look or I think that I'm dressed is going to hold me back from putting this content out there, for example. But I think it takes a lot of work and almost like self-acceptance in order to get to that place. What is some tips and advice that you can give to our listeners to help them get to that place if they're not there yet?
One of the things that I have been working on also the last couple of years, and it's been really beneficial, is really listening to how I talk to myself. And I'm I feel like I'm a very nice person. Like, I like people to feel good around me. But sometimes I'm so mean to myself, you know?
I think that's so common and it's so bad.
It's so bad. Like, so
it's the worst.
I really had to, like, again, just go back to, like, that awareness of, what am I saying to myself? Like, what signals am I sending to myself about, you know, how I look or how I feel? I have imposter syndrome like crazy. And that's something I'm working through. And I think that goes hand in hand with, you know, just trying to remember that we're human, we're imperfect, we're not, you know, what are these things that we're trying to live up to? You know, who put those there? You know, do we need to
doesn't matter.
That doesn't mean we can't engage in it, that we can't have fun with it. But we don't need to, you know, set our self-worth to that. So I think it's also identifying like where you want to put your self-worth. If it's completely and totally about, you know, having a perfect look or having a perfect life or having a perfect job, that's not gonna go well because nothing's perfect. You know? Definitely. And so the self-worth has to be pointed towards, you know, I know that I can take big risks. I know that I can jump into things that seem scary. I know that I can push forward through really hard times. Those are the things that I should be confident and feel good about as a person.
So focusing on the things that you know you're good at to encourage that positive self-talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know. I think as one exercise I've done in the past for myself, and I think I've shared with my listeners in the past, or at least like people that talk to me about these things, is literally when I'm feeling good. Because, we have those days where we feel like I'm a badass.
Yes.
Like, I feel
yes,
good
you're
today.
feeling
like,
yourself.
yes,
like, okay,
I look good. I feel good.
Right.
I got this. Or,
Yeah.
you're in that great mood. When you have one of those days, like, this is for everybody.
Yeah.
I literally, like, sat down and wrote all the things that I'm so, like, thrilled about myself. Like,
really
all
idea.
the positive things.
Yeah.
Because when I have those bad days where I'm feeling like shit and I'm like, oh, this, because we all have those days.
Yeah.
I literally go back and refer to that list, and it almost automatically brings me back to those things, like those accomplishments, those things that I know, like that, wow, like I've done these, or like, these are the positive things. It almost snaps me out of it.
Yes.
Sometimes it may take a few days, but it's definitely a good tool. To do. So I definitely recommend that, because when we're in that crappy mood, it's hard to do that positive self-talk. It's like something needs to almost snap you out of it. And if you don't have a friend or somebody to hopefully like give you that pep talk, you need your own words, your own list. So that's what I do. I don't know how silly it is.
That's perfect. It goes back to the journaling and
exactly.
You referring back. I mean, that's a fantastic tool. I'm gonna take that away. Actually, I have not been doing that, and
you should. Anytime you have a kick-ass day, just write all your accomplishments.
And go back to it.
Even the simple accomplishments. Honestly, I've been wanting to do this. I have not done this. I'm a vision board type of person too, but I also wanted to do kind of like a timeline, because I think at a young age I have accomplished a lot too, but sometimes we forget, right? We always want more. We're hard on ourselves. So I'm like, it'd be cool to kind of see a timeline of all the things we've accomplished, personal, work, anything that we're proud of for ourselves. This is just for ourselves, right? So then anytime I'm having a day like, oh, I feel stagnant, I haven't done much, oh my God, all those things, just go back and look at all the things you've accomplished, even just graduating high school. Like that's a big accomplishment. So that's one thing I've been wanting to do, but for the listeners out there, since I haven't taken my own advice, you guys do it.
You should do it.
But hopefully I'll get around to it and let you guys know if it works. But I think it's so important to do that. Like, the negative talk can really drain us, and we need like some of these little tools to snap us out of it. All right, well, let me just switch gears and go totally into the career. So one of the questions we had for us is, I want you to tell us more about your career as an executive producer and an actor, because that's a dream for a lot of people. So can you tell us a little bit more of the ins and outs, the pros and cons, and anything you would share for like an aspiring actor for today?
Yeah, sure. I mean, my job, it now encompasses a lot. And, when I was doing independent film in Austin, a lot of what I was doing there, it translated great to Los Angeles and the film industry here. There was a lot more to it here. That I didn't know. And so, I'm doing a lot more like business affairs and legal stuff on top of the creative
California stuff. With anything legal.
Yes. And all of the, contracts with different production companies that we're working with, and with different artists and writers. And so that, just a whole other kind of skill set, along with sort of the creative side of it. I think listening to, now we have so much access to podcasts where you can listen to people talk about their journey as an actor, as a producer, or whoever. And that always, still to this day, like gives me a lot of energy and gives me a lot of resources, because they talk about kind of like what we're talking about here, tools to how to get to where you want to go. And I think, as far as like being specific about if you want to be an actor or producer, I think, knowing part of it is, a lot of it is like knowing yourself and what you want to play and what you can play, and being aware of what people are responding to you as. So if you really want to do horror, but you're getting, more cast and you're more seen as like comedic, like how do you take what you're really good at, what people are loving you as, and like, maybe you create something of your own where you can be that comedic character within like a horror movie, a lot more, I recommend a lot more sort of self-created content for yourself if you can do it, which now it's like, you know, here we are. You know, we're able to do things a lot easier than we were, you know, 10 to 15 years ago. But I think just put yourself out there for what you want to do. You know, don't wait for people. Don't wait for the call. Don't wait for the email back. You know, I think that's really important when it comes to being an actor because you're auditioning a lot. You're talking to casting directors. And then a lot of people just kind of sit by the phone or sit by the computer and stare and like, you know, scroll, like check the emails to see, instead of like, okay, what can I be doing now? What can I be doing to flex this muscle? I could be taking classes, or I could be, you know, I mean, sometimes classes are hard to take financially. So like, could I be looking at YouTube videos and learning
to expand your
craft? You know, looking for, making relationships with directors is really important for actors. Making relationships.
So networking, finding ways to network, do all that stuff instead of just
don't wait. Yeah, not waiting for someone to kind of find you. And
I love what you said about in Austin, how you just kind of got any job to kind of get your foot in the door, and you're like, I'll do this, I'll do that, let me learn, you know, and eventually led to kind of, it did help you, lead you to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we hear that very not too frequently. We hear people kind of like just showing up and be like, hey, what can I do, because either we think like they're gonna kick us out, or you know, like there's no room for us. But who was saying it was one motivational speaker I listened to on YouTube, and he was sharing that literally this was back in the day, but he would just, and it was for like a radio host show, he would show up every morning and every day and be like, hey, can I get you a cup of coffee? Like even just that, until like they're like, fine, like this guy's not gonna give up. Like, and today happened to be a day where we need a co-host because I don't know, somebody called and said, fine, okay, go do it, you know, and that's how he got his career. But I think a lot of people nowadays we don't do that. We really just try to follow the procedure of a step-by-step, you know, apply for the job, like do a follow-up call and then wait. But I think it's still a great tool to try to network like that. But even just go show up, make friends with the front desk, you know, the gatekeepers, see what you can do, like even just as a volunteer, right? To get your foot in the door in such a demanding industry. Now, as far as your aspirations, you said you're also taking classes still, and I admire that. I love that. I love people who are always trying to continue their education, trying to expand. Can you share with our listeners what made you want to take more classes now? And
I mean, a lot of it again came from coming out of 2020. You know, coming out of that experience with my, you know, relative who lost, you know, the ability to walk, and just realizing nothing is guaranteed and time is so precious. And if you really love something and want to do something, you should do it. You know, you should go for it. And so, you know, I think at the end of 2020, early 2021, I made a lot of decisions about, you know, how I was going to move forward in my career and expand, you know, the skill sets that I had, you know, and that included like getting into better shape and being healthier. And so I've slowly over the last couple of years, you know, I started taking classes, and then I started talking to more actors. And I started looking for representation. So, late 2022, I got represented in voiceover. And that was a big deal. And then at the top of this year, I was like, you know what, I'm really going to take the step in front of the camera. So I started doing more auditions and really just practicing auditions. Sometimes just practicing your craft, even if you're not showing anyone, is key. You know, and then I got represented, you know, earlier this year for commercial and theatrical.
No, congrats.
Thank you. Yeah. And, you know, it was coming out of a situation where we didn't know what was going to happen in the world. And just knowing that some people don't have the opportunities that I do, you know, and I'm lucky, and I should I should go for it.
Being grateful for every opportunity we can get, and taking it by, it shows we appreciate it, or at least we're giving it a shot.
Yeah.
Now, as far as you, what's one thing that most people don't know about you? Do you have any hidden talents?
I think hidden talents. I was going to say, this was more of a fun fact.
Yeah, a fun one.
Yeah, I recently, like I said, I wanted to get into more, taking myself more seriously in terms of diet and exercise. I've gotten really into combat sports.
Okay.
And now I'm thinking about maybe trying to take some MMA classes.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah.
I've done it. It's great. I have.
Oh my God.
I've done boxing, kickboxing, grappling. It's amazing. I love it so much. If I didn't mind messing up my face, I would totally compete.
I'm a little nervous about that too. Yeah.
No, but when you're just taking the classes, you wear all the gear.
Yeah, it just feels so...
The first time you get socked in the face, it's like, what just happened? Because I had never been socked in the face before. Thank God I had never got into a fight. But when I was doing it, and my coach, he just went for it. And I was like, what? You just hit me.
Oh,
it's God. I'm like... Gloves up.
Yeah, I love that.
It's amazing. I love it. I loved it so much. I can't wait to be able to go back and do it. It's just that feeling that we talked about, feeling at your greatest and as a badass. I think, especially as a woman, it's just this power it gave me. And now I want to go back tomorrow.
Oh my God.
But I'm excited for you to get into
by that. Yes, because it's and also when you're watching, they do a great job, especially if you're watching UFC or one of the bigger competition shows. They do this great job of you're watching this narrative of someone who has lost before, and they're coming back, or if they do lose, you're like, oh, you can't wait for them to get back up and get back at it.
Yeah.
And again, that kind of has been feeding me in an interesting way, because it just reminds me that, okay, if I fail at something, if I don't, do well, you gotta get back up, you gotta do it again. And that's kind of a cool part of your story, and it's going back to when I wasn't getting cast, on, I was really bummed about it in college. I wasn't, getting to do any shows on our main stage. And it seems like such a small thing, but for me, it was really big then.
Well, that was your passion. That's huge.
And then it propelled me to so that failure of not getting the part turned into this, 5 years making 10 movies and then translating that into a career in Los Angeles. And that's cool.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's kind of goes back to your timeline, idea. That's,
exactly.
So...
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so here's a fun one. So if you can change one thing in the world, what would it be? And it doesn't have to be world peace, because we all want that.
Yeah. I did have the thought of what would it be if everyone just didn't have any insecurity? What would that look like? Because I do think that is what drives a lot of the craziness that does happen in our world.
You don't think people would be more crazy?
Maybe
if you
you're right.
No insecurities, you would do everything that comes through your head. I don't know.
That's interesting. Yeah.
For all the purely good people. I think everyone is good, but there are some corrupted minds. For all the purely good people, that would be amazing, because they would do good things. Right. But for people who have bad intentions, I don't know.
You're right.
But let's be positive. Yeah. I think that would be great for the majority of the world. Fingers crossed.
That would be an interesting. Cool. It would be an interesting.
But why did you think of that at first?
I think it was because we were just I was thinking about all of the imposter syndrome stuff, and just how people, when they feel bad about something and they don't have the positive tools to use, they might be prone to go out and doing negative things, and they're trying to match someone on social media, or they're trying to do something because they don't feel like they're enough. And so it's okay, if you don't have an insecurity about it, are you just gonna
go for
whatever it is you're really good at and that you love doing, instead of trying to become something else? How many people out there are really good at math and physics and stuff, that could be like
launching
us to other worlds who are like obsessed with being, you know, the next, you know, Brad Pitt or whatever. You know, it's like if you didn't have that
insecurity, you feel like the world would be a better place where everybody would, you know, use their full potential and do like whatever, all the great things that it's in their head without anything holding them back. I love that. Okay, so what's the biggest challenge you overcame that initially you were like, no way, like I can't do this?
Yeah. So I actually homeschooled as a kid.
Oh, okay.
For a very
long
time. It was great in a lot of ways, but I was always by myself and just around adults. So I really didn't have my peer group around me. So when I was 14, I decided to go to high school, and I was so socially awkward. I was such a weirdo.
I can't tell at all.
I didn't think that I could do it. Like for the first few months of it, I was like, this isn't gonna work. Like I feel like I can't. I'm not. You know.
This is not for me.
Yeah, I wasn't acclimating. And then I decided to get into theater and get into public speaking. Wow. Because again, I feel like my personality is
great.
My personality is just like if I have a fear of doing something, I just kind of try to jump into something with both feet and just kind of go for it.
That's amazing. That's rare.
Because otherwise, I don't think I could do it. You know, I think I just have to throw myself in.
Like not give yourself an option almost.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of force myself to do it. And that was a huge part of my, also falling in love with theater and with the arts. It all stemmed from feeling like I wasn't going to acclimate into this new social situation, throwing myself into this new, situation where I was having to be up in front of people, and it was theater and it was public speaking. So I was able to transform into different characters, which was helpful because I could get out of my own head. Uh-huh. And then public speaking was you had a specific topic and you got specific things you had to hit on. And so it got me out of my own head. And it was super challenging at first. I mean, I could imagine. I was freaking out.
Especially in high school as a teenager. That's hard.
Yes. But I, slowly but surely, I kept at it, kept doing it, took the acting thing into college, and
love it.
The rest is history.
I love it.
It helped so much.
I love it. It makes so much sense. That's why you fell in love with it too. It got you out of your awkward stage or your fear stage.
Yeah. That deep social anxiety, which I still have sometimes. And so I just have to I have all these tools that I've I try to use. And,
that's awesome. Yeah. Well, good for you. I mean, I'm a person who throws myself in things too, but, I don't know. I think for me, I couldn't do that in high school, I don't think. I think for me that came later as I build, those positive things. I accomplished something. I could do it, then slowly I threw myself in more and more things. But as a high school kid, that's impressive. So I hope some of our young listeners are okay, if I have a major issue, I'm just gonna
do the
extreme. And hope for the best. And a lot of times I think when we take those leaps of faith, it works out.
Yes, totally.
All right, so here's a very deep question, I think. And it's so different for everybody. Yeah. But I love asking it because I'm always fascinated by happiness and fulfillment and what it means to everybody. So that's exactly the question. So what does living a happy and fulfilled life mean to you?
I think it means being able to be present with at my job, with my family, not carrying baggage around with me. Like we've been kind of talking about, not carrying, the bad traffic in with me when I'm having dinner with my significant other. It's, being able to get bombarded with crazy emails at work and not feel negative about anything that I'm doing at work. It's just the ability to feel good about what I'm doing and be present and stay connected
in that moment.
Trying to live in that moment and with the people around me, and not having this haze of, this thing that happened, 2 hours ago, or this thing that might happen, in 3 days.
Yeah, worrying about the past or the future.
Yeah.
Lately, actually, I started kind of wanting to study more about being in the present, because we've heard it in the past. And I had a huge issue with that in the past.
Yes.
Like, I've always wanted to do a lot. I always wanted to accomplish a lot, but I was never happy.
Right.
As I did, like, as I got this degree or as I got this promotion, it was like, okay, checked off.
Right.
And then it was be like, okay, now I'm gonna obsess over to the next thing. And that's when I realized, okay, I need to find, and I got obsessed over finding like a life that I can have a balanced life.
Right.
So that was the thing. And now I'm realizing it's not even only the balance, it's really learning how to be fully present in that moment. And I think there's so much more into it to really be good at that. At least for me, it's I have to like try.
It's work.
It's work.
Mm-hmm.
You have to try. So can you share, and I love that. Like, I think anybody that can truly become that, like, present in anything they're doing, they will enjoy their life more, feel happier and fulfilled. So can you share how you kind of got to that place? And like you said, it's work. We're always still working on it. It's not like, okay, we're there and that's it. I feel like we do always need to do work for it. But what made you realize that being present is like the key to happiness?
I think it was when, I just had a moment where I felt so unhappy, and it was stifling my energy. And like, didn't feel like I was productive. I didn't feel like I was focused. And then it also started to not make sense why I was so unhappy. I was like, I'm doing really cool things. Like, the people around me are awesome. Yeah. I'm very lucky to have, and I'm always grateful for it. But like, what is happening within my own head?
Inside,
that's making me different. And I really had to just. I mean, a lot of it was. It was an awareness thing. I think again, it's just when those moments are like, sometimes I just sit in my, I'm sitting in my office. I'm feeling really good. I get an email. My mood sours, and I immediately...
See, those red flags I talked about.
Yes, and I immediately have to go, okay, I have to let that go. Like,
or I'll deal with that later.
I'll deal with that later. Like, you have to compartmentalize. But so much of it is that awareness and having to figure that out for yourself. I also think, for me at least, starting to get more physical in my life, so the working out. I've taken some gymnastics too the last little while. Just, I think that is helpful too, because we're flight or flight creatures, and when you have these high levels of energy and anxiety, you do physically kind of have to work that out sometimes. You need an outlet, whatever that means.
Just like with kids, you got to let them run around.
Exactly.
They're gonna drive you crazy.
So it's another going back to the awareness of like, when I started working out, it was amazing. I would have a horrible day. I wouldn't even, and that made me not want to go work out, right? But I had to force myself to just go and show up. And then once I was done with the workout, I was like, oh, wow. I feel cool. And I was like, this is so
amazing.
Crazy.
Yeah, no, I've experienced that too. I would always have to force myself, but once I was there, I loved every moment of it. But then after a while, I was like, no, I'm not going to force myself anymore. This is fun. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, why am I having to force something that I love,
Yeah.
I think it just comes from the desire to want to change too. I don't want to be unhappy. I don't want to be that person.
I don't want to worry about the past or the future. I want to really enjoy this moment. And like you said, we don't know what's going to happen. Right. So why am I not going to enjoy fully this moment of everything around me compared to worrying about what's already past that I can change or what's going to come or maybe not even come. Like,
right.
We don't know what's going to happen.
No idea, but it's in front of you right now and you got to be there for that.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, we are running short on time. So one of the last questions. So what's one thing that you would do differently if you were to do it all over again in your career, in your life?
I mean, I think going back to how we talk to ourselves, I think I would just want to be kinder to myself.
Yeah.
Not so hard on myself.
Yeah.
You know? I think that goes a long way, because I think there were times when it stifled me, you know,
and I held
myself back a little bit, and I didn't jump on opportunities, you know, like I would have if I didn't have that. If I didn't have those negative thoughts of like, you can't do that. I've been lucky that I've been able to overcome some of those and jump in with both feet on some things, you know. But one of the things is like just asking more questions. And I feel like my brain, when I want to ask questions, is like, that's a stupid question. Why are you asking that? You know, and it's like, ask more questions, because
I love that advice.
To get, you know, like, it doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't hurt.
And if you don't get it, most of the time, other people don't get it either. Right. So ask.
Be curious and be okay with being curious. And a lot of that does come from your mind, because your mind will say, that's stupid. Don't say that. Why would you think that? You know. So I think being kinder to myself. Asking more questions.
I love that advice. Yeah. Awesome. Well, please share with our listeners where they can find you, more about you and your work, and we can wrap up.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. I mean, I am on social media. My full name, Terissa Kelton, at Terissa Kelton.
And we'll
Instagram.
link everything below.
Perfect. Yeah. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, rehabent.com is where all of my projects are listed, where I put all of our updates for the company. And yeah, I mean, I'm out there. I'm very active on social.
Love it. So. Well, thank you again so much for coming. It's been a pleasure. I've learned a lot. I love your energy and getting to know you. But yeah, so that will be it. And thank you for our listeners for tuning in and learning along with us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Please rate and review this podcast. Follow and engage with us on social media under the Yegi Project. And if you're interested in being a guest, email info@theyegiproject.com. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.